Allow me to read this, because he is a doctor. He holds a degree in physics from the University of Barcelona. He was the former president of the International Association of Professional Meteorologists. We all know, and we're all happy to have with us today, Dr. Tomás Molina. Welcome, Mr. Molina. I must ask, it's November, and we're still wearing short sleeves, right? Yes. This is climate change. The answer is yes. But let me say something else. Earlier, talking to Dr. Vergés, but now at least you have less pain, right? Because the weather is changing less now. But yes, we need to get used to this. And I think with us will also be Antonia Oliveras. Antonia, the person asking the question, a barometric patient. So let's talk meteorology and joint health. My joint hurts. It will rain, or will it rain? And Dr. Vergés will also join us in this panel. So gentlemen, lady, the AXA auditorium is all yours, and the time is yours too. We need a mic, don't we? I'm wearing one. I think there should be one over here. There you go. Well, how many patients do we have here who feel it will rain soon because their joints hurt? Raise your hand. Don't be afraid. How many? Well, I can see a few. Any of you are afraid and are not raising your hands? Don't be shy. Well, let me say that 36 years ago, I've been studying the weather. I've been studying the weather for the last 36 years, and you may look at me and you may ask yourselves, how old is this guy? Well, I'm older than 36, I can say that. Time goes by, but I used to have a makeup expert who was much better than me when doing the weather forecast. Her name was Luisa, and she used to say, I think it will rain soon. Do we agree that the weather will change? And I used to say, yes. And sometimes she said, well. And then I looked at my maps once again, because she got it right. Every time, almost every time. It was then when Dr. Vergés said to me about this, talked to me about this topic, and I said yes, because I love sciences. My name is Tomás. Do you know Thomas the Apostle, who placed the hand and didn't believe that Christ had resurrected and had to put his hand in the wound? Well, I'm like that. But I also perceived why. We will be talking about that too. I am sure, and we've seen it in scientific papers, that pain suffered by people with OA problems is a reality capable of foreseeing the weather. Well, first, thank you for being here. Do you agree with this? Oh, she's got a mic. There are two types. I mean, in my professional career, I've seen there are two types of people. Those who predict and those who react. I think I predict. I think I predict, yes. Because in my case, when it's about to rain, my head hurts a lot. And if I need to go down a slope, then my knees are going to hurt. My knees will hurt. Only a few hours before it starts raining. Then there's the rain falls down, pours down, and then I feel just fine. Anyone here would be more reactive, pain after rain, when the weather has already changed and not before? Before. Most people are predictive. They say so before. Others are more reactive. I work in a nursing home with old people, and I see that many, when it's raining, is when they feel the pain the most. Then it's no longer raining, maybe they spend one more day with pain, but once the dampness or the rain has passed, they feel much better. But I don't know if there's a reason for that. I think I already told you this. Let me say it once again. This thing that we're going to discuss with Dr. Tomás Molina is that, and apologies if many know this already, I worked first as a doctor, as a rural doctor in Ribes de Freser. I finished my career. Then I went to do the military service. I was a military doctor. And then I was assigned a place in Ribes de Freser. At that time, when you finished your studies, you had to go far. And then, like the notaries, you know, you gradually get closer to where you want to be. And that's where everything started. Many women, and Ribes de Freser came to me, thin women with developed osteoarthritis, and I loved to go fishing. I never caught any fish, but I liked going to go fishing. I'd like to get trouts, but I didn't get trouts. And they said, Dr. Vergés, don't go fishing tomorrow because tomorrow afternoon it will rain a lot. And I said, how do you know that? And they said, because my knee hurts. And they used to say this to me quite often. After a few years, I met with Dr. Muller. You will see her tomorrow and the day after. She's a great rheumatologist. And I said, Ingrid, what is this about the weather and raining? Because many times the patient said so, the doctor didn't, but the doctor may said maybe they are crazy and they need to be locked away. I don't know. But I said to Ingrid, what if we conducted a study, a well-designed study, to see if there is an actual correlation between patients feeling pain and the weather? So we conducted this study. Shall we have a look at it, Tomás? So here, there's a relationship between the weather and osteoarthritis, whether there's a scientific component or just a tale. And Hippocrates said so, the effects of the weather. This is something new. It's not new. Hippocrates said so many years ago. Actually, there's a tower in Greece, in Athens, called the Tower of the Wind. And in this Tower of the Wind, for each direction of the wind, it's associated, there's a relief, there's a drawing there depicting the illnesses and diseases associated with each wind. Because many, historically, with wind of the south that chimes in from the Libya desert, temperatures go up all of a sudden, so people die of heat, or they used to die of heat. And with the northeastern winds from Siberia in winter, they used to die of the cold. So you can see all the bad things from the world depicted in that tower. Well, I didn't know that. That's very interesting, Tomás. So, as I was saying, we considered whether there was this barometric patient. When we presented the results along with Tomás, we did so. A good friend of mine from the clinic, Dr. Conca, a rheumatologist who's in Tarragona, who'd been the right-hand side of Dr. Pere Pons. Dr. Pere Pons was the father of Catalan internal medicine, the father of the internal medicine experts. And he already spoke about barometric patients, and he said, well, today there's been a decrease in the barometric pressure because there's a lot of people in my clinic not feeling well. So he said, Josep, you haven't discovered anything new. We already referred to the barometric patient in the past. So when we started to carry out this study, we considered if it was temperature, atmospheric pressure, or dampness, humidity. There was a discussion whether it was temperature, atmospheric pressure, or humidity. We conducted a study with a scientific method. We created a control group. The control group was formed by the people accompanying at the POAL, and over years we did an intensive, hard, like those of Chinese people, but apologies for that expression. We did it each day. We controlled the pain in a scale of pain and functional mobility during 365 days, the 4 seasons of the year. This is a description of the study. So we had 80 patients with knee osteoarthritis, also with rheumatoid arthritis, and the control group formed by 42 subjects. Rheumatoid osteoarthritis was affected more by temperature and not atmospheric pressure. Very few patients, though, to state that rheumatoid osteoarthritis is different and can incorporate such a factor. We would not dare to say that temperature can affect it. But the results show that patients with rheumatoid arthritis were affected more by temperature. Here are the results. As you can see, there was a significant P, an important P value, 0.08, and atmospheric pressure for patients with osteoarthritis significantly changed. There was an increase in pain, and functional capacity changed too. We can see so in this other scale. The same results were observed. It was atmospheric pressure. So the conclusion is that in this case, at least in the area of Barcelona, where we conducted the study, when there's a decrease in atmospheric pressure, the patient feels pain and it hurts. And as you rightly so said, it disappeared when it started to rain. We also perceive that there is no influence in the disease. We know it hurts, but there is no data showing that a decrease in atmospheric pressure can damage the joint or the disease. No further damage being shown anyway, but it does hurt. So we can say that the patients were right in saying that it will rain tomorrow because my knee hurts. If I may, we could think, why? Because you will carry on talking about utility and usefulness, but why? Dr. Vergés refers to three things: temperature, which is mostly mentioned in scientific papers, the daily temperature range, that is how temperature changes, what are the oscillations of temperature throughout the days. The second is atmospheric pressure, and the third is humidity. Let's talk about atmospheric pressure. What is it? This pressure is the weight of air on top of our body. Air is one thing that weighs. Actually, half of the air is found in the first 5 kilometers of the atmosphere. Half of the air is there in those first 5 kilometers. The rest of the atmosphere has the other half, thousands of kilometers. So the air is compressed over the Earth, compressing the Earth. And over our body, it exerts pressure from all angles. It's not as if we feel the pressure on top of our heads. It's as if we're in water. If you go into the water and underneath, you feel your nose, your ears, something is pressuring you. This is atmospheric pressure. When you're in the water presses the body and you feel it in your membranes or even in your eyes. If you like diving, you will feel it in your eyes. Your eyes go like inwards. The air does something similar. It weighs. How much does the air weigh vis-a-vis an average person? Well, like 1 kilo of lead of 1 meter times 1 meter. And each hectopascal reduced is as if 1 kilo was removed from our body. This would not be very scientific, but the concept is that when we are taking pressure from ourselves, it's like a balloon. You know that when a balloon goes up, the pressure reduces, so the balloon gets bigger and bigger? So the same things happen to our body. If we go into the water pressures us, and we feel smaller, tighter. Where when we are taking pressure away, we expand. This could be an explanation of pain. It's like when you see a table or a chair. You see the chair and you make an idea of how much it weighs. Then you pick it up. You move it. instead of being made from steel, let's say it's lightweight plastic. You do it like this, and it suddenly lifted easily, like a broom. You can imagine it may be made of wood. So you think you're going to do like this, and all of a sudden, you can lift it very quickly. You exert too much strength to move that object. So the same thing happens to our body. Our body is used to this weight of a piece of lead of 1 meter times 1 meter. When it's no longer there, we extend ourselves, and whenever we have some weakness, then it can hurt us. With temperature, something similar could happen. We are a solid body. We humans are solid, filled with water, and when temperature changes, our body changes too. Sometimes we people believe that we are like some higher being, not an animal, or not a thing. We are something else, a person, but in actual fact, we are animals, and we are things, physical beings. It is obvious that external factors have an effect on us. A lot is said about animal ecology. Hens, cows are placed at an optimal temperature with optimal light levels, and thanks to this they can produce more eggs or more milk, they can eat more. With animals, we believe it, and we think it's obvious, but with people, it seems as if we are special, right? Above environmental factors, but we're not. Temperature also causes effects on us, of our internal water, our full body, and of course, if we have some weakness in these things that unite us, in my case, I'm convinced, and this is not very scientific what I'm saying, but it's a physical explanation. And I'm sure that it is in line with the results that have been found. Apologies. So what do we do with this? We know that atmospheric pressure has an influence on osteoarthritis, on our pain. What can we do? Once we have this information, we need to apply it. Yes, this is a project that we are embarking on, but why? Why pressure? Because before it rains, the air moves in the atmosphere. What is air? The air is the atmosphere. It's the wind. Wind is air in movement. When it needs to rain, the air goes up, and when the air goes up, it cools down. Clouds are formed, and it ends up raining. So rain is basically air going up. There's a variation in pressure, but the truth is that air goes up, and pressure comes down. Let's say so the other way around. If it needs to rain, the pressure will go down before it rains. That's why when some people who have some problems feel that rain is coming, or bad weather is coming, or even when a storm is growing, there will be a decrease in pressure. If you have a barometer at home, a way of knowing when it will stop raining is when you see that the barometer changes and goes up. If you have a look at a barometer and you see that the pressure goes down, you can say it will rain, and you will get it right. And when it is raining and you see that the pressure is going up again, it does like this, then you can say it will stop raining and you will get it right. Because when pressure goes up, it means that air is coming down, and when air comes down, it heats up and dries, and then it stops raining. That's why typically people would feel things before it rains. It is then when the air goes up, the pressure comes down, and there's joint pain, because weight is taken away and you tend to expand. Now, what if we were capable of warning when people could have pain, because not everybody responds in the same way. One year, there was a doctor here who said some people have puncturing pain, acute pain, and others have a different type of pain. You have acute pain, yes, like a needle, like a prickling pain, whereas others have a different type of ongoing pain. This doctor, and I'm no expert, but this doctor said that this also depends on what kind of problem you have in your joints, and it also depends on what joint. It may be you have small edemas. Yes, we've seen this in MRIs. In some cases, there are liquids. And this could be a hypothesis that that liquid produces this pain. When reabsorbing itself, then I don't know. It's just a hypothesis. But it would be good to use a large group of people that could inform about the level of pain. Through AI, we could end up foreseeing or even recommending some drug to reduce the pain. An analgesic drug that works pretty well for this is paracetamol. That's a minor, or Gelocatil, that's a brand name, but anyway. But paracetamol is a drug that can be used to address these types of acute pain, let's say. There are other treatments for stronger pain. Paracetamol could be one. Any painkiller would do it. But we could use a computer system to ensure that we can follow the situation of all barometric patients to know when they believe the atmospheric pressure will go down. We have the AFLAR president here, right? Just imagine we go to Paris and we see that there's a decrease in atmospheric pressure. It would be good to have a paracetamol in our pocket, right? Just to take it, just in case. This is what we call personalized medicine. And by means of things like these, we can apply technology to improve the quality of life of people. This is key. I think one of these days, Dr. Bulbena will be here. He also carried out a study showing that in acute panic and anxiety crises requiring admission into hospital in Barcelona, there was also a correlation with western winds. And it does make sense for me as a meteorologist, so physician, because the western wind in Barcelona is a wind that is very dry and it's charged with electricity. Now, if this has to do with our nerves, I don't know. Some things I don't know, but it does make sense that if there's an electric alteration in our body, with an electrostatic change in our body, those things that are governed by electricity, if I have some sort of insufficiency, could be affected. I have a relative who has a neuralgia of the trigeminal nerve. Well, this relative of mine feels the effect of the western winds. He feels like this prickling pain, and despite not being informed. You don't need to tell her the northwestern wind is coming. Just thinking that people are immune to our surroundings is chimerical. Also, in the case of fractures, people with bone fractures feel this pain in the area of the fracture, and then lesions. Dermatologists know that skin lesions, while they scar, they hurt. Once it is scarred and healed, it no longer hurts. But as you said, Tomás, we are still animals after all. And one time in a humoristic program, they called me and they said, "Do cows feel the weather?" And I said, "Well, you should ask farmers or livestock farmers." But it's funny. I would have loved to do a study, but you know that nowadays cows give milk because they got pregnant, because they had a calf, and then they carry on giving milk until they ovulate once again, right? So they carry, in current systems, they carry like ankle bracelet, and they measure the movement of the cow. Depending on the movement of the paw of the leg, they know whether they're ovulating, they're more nervous, less nervous, and I would have loved to use this data. But this etiology for cows is only held for ovulation patterns. I would like to use it for meteorological changes, but I can't. I insist, if only by moving one leg they know if a cow is ovulating or not. Obviously, we humans, or animals of all kinds, we are repetitive, right? We can foresee things. Would you like to ask any question? Couple of questions? How are we for time? Couple of questions? Yes.
A couple of quick questions. What
about the hyperbaric chamber? Could that be a nice treatment? I don't think so, because it's something momentaneous. Precipitation is something that comes and goes. It's not something stable. If one is stable with a specific pressure, it's not that when the pressure is low is when it hurts. It's when it drops, as it drops, which is when it changes, when you are changing as well. It's not high or low pressures, it's in the change. People who complain, for example, about something would be high pressures, and some people complain of a headache for high pressures, but not in these pains. At least in 36 years, I mean, people have said many, many things to me. I know this is not very scientific, but this is what I hear. People with headaches, migraines, complain especially when the pressure is high. Hyperbaric chamber increases the pressure, and you oxygenate much more. You could also add oxygen. I think it is used. Well, I've seen it being used in Spain, only in some football players. The Spanish Football Federation in Madrid has hyperbaric chambers, and in some acute pain processes, they do use it, and then there are some clinical units that use it. But I think, as Tomás, with all due respect, I think if it's not popular, because it's been around for several years, it's very likely that either it's expensive or the results are not enough to make it become popular. I have seen it used for some football players, but we don't know if maybe there's a psychological effect there, because, you know, the placebo effect in pain could be up to 40%. Some people thinking that they will improve 40% when they have a small, low pain. Placebo effect is high, so the psychological effect is very important. If it's a high pain, placebo drops and the patient still has pain, is in pain. But it's a possibility, yes. More questions? You should take advantage that you have Tomás Molina here. No questions? And we will close with Maria Teresa. Tomás, it's always a pleasure as a physicist and everything. Rainfall does have an influence, but with the heat we had these months, the body is also exhausted, legs and everything. I suppose that also has an influence, right? Many papers, the doctor will know more than myself, speak more of the temper range more than changes in pressure. As you'll know, the great factor that affects us all is pressure. even if you are in an apartment. The variation in pressure, not the absolute value of pressure, but the change in pressure. Because you might be in one floor or another floor with a closed door, and the pressure will change in your apartment as in other places, because the air is everywhere and it changes everywhere, more or less alike. But the temperature is something that we can have more influence on. It could depend on how your house is, if you have air conditioning, or there are other differences. So many times the studies are not conclusive because it's very complicated for everyone to be in the same conditions, but pressure is quite uniform all around. Even if you live in an apartment that is in a very different level from others. Well, with all this, thank you so much, Tomás. Next year, Mr. President, because we will have more of this, we will be dressed in summer clothing. Well, let's hope not. Tomás Molina, Antonia Oliveras, Josep Vergés.